Okay, Viva 6. How did the Glorious Revolution shape the American politics? The revolution led to the thirst of independence because the Boston Revolt in 1689, the Liza Rebellion, and the Protestant Revolution in Maryland all led to the colonists wanting freedom from Britain. It all started when James II was super unpopular among the Protestants because he was a super strong Catholic and he was very cruel to the Protestants. And all the Protestants thought the Catholics would keep ruling because he just had a son, and they all assumed that he would be a Catholic too. So on November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day, it reminded Protestants that they needed to do something about their government because they didn't like it. So in Boston, Governor Andreas was unliked, and they captured him. And Andreas was in captivity, and he first tried to escape through wearing women's clothing, but that did not work. And then his second escape worked much better. He got the guards drunk and then fled to England, and then in England he was a freed man, so the Americans couldn't do anything to him. And then later, New York thought it would be a good idea to revolt and cry and have their voices heard. So Jacob Lizer took upon himself to be chief of the whole revolt, and he thought he would be good at that because he was already a well-known person and he knew what he was doing. So he wanted to invade the Canadian French, but not too many people wanted to do that. So everyone who outcried and said, "We're not doing that," he jailed them. So then he got more people to do it because they didn't want to be in jail. And then once King William heard about Jacob Lizer putting people in jail, he sent soldiers to charge Lizer with treason, and he was then found guilty and put to death. And he was first hung until unconscious. Then he was disemboweled, so all his organs and all his bodily fluids were taken out of him. Then he was beheaded, and his body was torn to parts and just thrown away, I guess. But people still knew and remembered Jacob Lizer for years on because of how strong and how important they were to New York. And then in the British colony of Maryland, the Protestants, everyone in Maryland were mostly Protestants because they were all refugees from the Catholics, because they were always fighting in war. So the Protestants finally got mad and finally did something about it. So they defeated Colonel Darnell and set up a new government with no Catholics in it in Maryland. And then that was basically how they just took over Maryland, and they wouldn't let anyone else control that area. They were the only people who were there and were allowed to be there. So the three colonies had to face their actions with years on after everything was calmed down, and New York had the biggest of the three punishments because obviously the King of England is going to do something about his colonies revolting. So the Boston Massacre, Lizer Revolt, and the Protestant Rebellion strengthened the English government while also making the colonies in America mad at the English and helped them want their own freedom and want their own republic and society without the English.